let's dive into each of the five mega trends. So we start at the top with Eatopia. We define Eatopia trend as kind of a combination between eating and utopia, or consuming your way to the perfect state of holistic wellness. It's a utopian journey. I don't know if any of us ever really get there, but I think a lot of us are trying. So today we're going to lean a little bit heavily on that holistic wellness aspect, and one of the ways that consumers are getting their daily doses of wellness. So I'm leaning on a quote from McKinsey here, which was actually shared by my friend Lucy. I think it really summarized the direction of the industry, and it's that consumers are taking greater control over their health and expect companies like all of us here today to provide effective science-backed solutions. Now, McKinsey goes on to say that 82% of US consumers now consider wellness a top or important priority in their everyday lives, which is similar to what consumers in the UK and China report, with about 73% of British consumers saying that and 87% of Chinese consumers. Oh, and this is especially true for Gen Z and millennial. So I guess when I see a statement like effective science-backed solutions, I think nutritional supplements, which then leads me to think, what do we know about consumer needs and supplements today? So looking here, here's some of the consumer needs state work that our team, which is guided by Sonia Matthews, has created on supplements. So this was created when we asked both American and British consumers how they interact with vitamins, minerals, and supplements. And we found that nearly half of supplement occasions are driven by either treating a condition, which is really about helping consumers either recover or deal with an illness or medical condition, and that also includes sleep. Or they're driven by a nutritional top-up occasion, which is really about getting the right balance of nutrients, filling those nutritional gaps, and also supporting a healthy immune system. So just in that information there, that points us to two distinct areas, but significant opportunities to reach consumers using supplements. But I think a question that certainly I have and a lot of us here might be asking is, how accessible are supplements to consumers today? So that's really where we see the challenge. In the same survey, we find that supplements are actually quite confusing to a significant number of people. About 1 in 4 Americans find supplements confusing, and that rises to 1 in 3 for younger consumers. And we see that same level of confusion replicated when we look at consumers in Europe as well. So not surprisingly, though, confusion correlates to not using a supplement. It's just too hard. But challenge is just another word for opportunity. So Nick, can you talk a little bit about what you're seeing on products that might help this accessibility challenge that we see?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the word accessibility is really, really important, because I think it's a word that summarizes how do you get to more people, and it can be about communication, it can be about price, it can be about even visual identity in terms of how things make themselves more amenable to a consumer and to resonate. And I think what we've got here is a few products on the slide. The first one is around about sort of superfoods and greens in particular. It's an area that many will be familiar with and be thinking, yes, we're aware of that. Greens is not the trend per se. I think it's the fact that greens have become accessible as a nutritional top-up, exactly as you described. I think it was the 23 or the 24% on the slides just gone. And what it's done is it's actually a relatively easy supplement to actually understand. It's accessible in terms of taking a multivitamin out of a capsule or tablet in this instance and turning it into something that people can easily adopt around the habits and behaviors around breakfast, more so than anything else. And it's a really good example of how people are health hacking, as we would like to describe it. And the beauty about this is it's almost consumers going back to basics. They've done micronutrients through superfoods. We'll obviously talk about hydration in a later trend, but hydration is another good way that people have adopted it. The interesting thing, it's simplified sophistication, so there's a lot that goes into it, but it is very simplified in terms of its expression and how it's used. The one in the middle, Mudwater, is another great US example. Again, some people will be familiar with, maybe others aren't, but it's about the adaptogens that are appearing and ability to influence our hot drinks. One thing about supplements and accessibility is engaging with where do you have them, when do you have them, and so often. And that's the challenge people have in product descriptions. And what people have done with adaptogens and hot drinks particularly is they pimped the original behavior of their hot drink, in this instance coffee. Of course it could be tea, it could be anything else. I'm not saying coffee has to be the be all and end all. But in terms of confusion, there's little to it, because people have coffee and they know that it's going to give some stimulatory benefit. And so all they're doing now is engaging in the ability to pimp my existing behavior, as it were. Not one, we're just going to make it better. Now, in the interests of the final product example, you talked about the sort of treat a condition, which is a very classical way for the nutrition industry to talk to consumers. In terms of health hacking, we've seen a lot more brands picking up in terms of the topical application. Now, we're not the right ones to talk about the science and efficacy of topical patches, for example. There'll be others that want to discuss it, but do look out for more and more brands looking to health hack. They provide supplements not in a consumption of a tablet, which has no emotional engagement, but using patches that people can adopt within their easy life and behaviors. So these health hacking behaviors are definitely part of this whole utopian approach, and become a real interesting area of people going back to some basics.